Show me what you got!
Another week, another episode of To Be Frank. I'm Jake Reiser.
I'm Dan Schulman.
I'm Jordan Tebow.
And this was a great week for To Be Frank because we had a screening of the United States of Football and a talkback with the director, Sean Pamphilon. The film itself was really comprehensive. He prefaced it by saying that it was a look from Pee Wee all the way up to the NFL and about the problems that it has. And there was a lot to do with concussion research. It focused on Kyle Turley, a former NFL player who has CTE. And I think through Turley and through all the characters that Pamphilon was able to talk about and the experiences that he had in the movie, I think it was very successful.
Yeah, I enjoyed the movie. It outlined a huge problem in the NFL and the way that they're handling it. Even though they say that they're making it a top issue, it's clear that it's not the main thing on Roger Goodell and the NFL's agenda when it comes to making the NFL not only more safe but more entertaining. Concussions is a huge medical problem, and it really does need to be addressed. And I think this United States of Football is a major step towards bringing this problem into the limelight.
Yeah, and I mean, I was a case in which I started playing football when I was a sophomore in high school. I always loved the game of football, and I played 1 year of, well, we call it Pop Warner, where I'm from, Pee Wee Pop Warner, whatever you want to call it, when I was in fourth grade, and it was pretty damaging. I mean, we did drills like, they were called meat grinders. We did Alabamas where, right off the snap, you got to get off your back and just, what is it? Oh, it's two linemen versus a linebacker, and you just got to run full speed at each other. We were in fourth grade. And, and we were just going head to head against each other. They were trying to just really just, make us just hit as hard as we possibly could. And the other thing is we had these massive helmets on that were like heavier than our heads. And, and something that Pamphilon said in his film, a lot of that pain is deflected when you put a helmet on. But your brain is still, there's no concussion-proof helmet. Your brain is still bouncing back and forth in there. And maybe your skull doesn't feel the pain, but your brain is certainly feeling it. And when you get kids who are 12, 13 years old and their brains and their necks and their heads aren't as strong as they will be, it can be severely damaging. So the film was certainly eye-opening. It made me really uncomfortable, but, in a learning way. And the other thing I want to say is I had a headache throughout the entire film.
I have friends in Sargent College of Health and Rehabilitation Sciences studying the exact same thing right now. They took they had a few seminars on CTE and its effects because of the BU connection that the disease has.
Dr. Ann McKee.
Yep, and they had a couple seminars. I went to one of them, in fact, with a couple of friends, and I found it very enlightening, and it shed a lot of negative light, I should say, on the way the NFL has handled the whole situation in terms of concussions. It's almost like they fail to acknowledge it, and they don't even want it to be brought up because there is no answer for it right now. And yes, Jordan, I agree, there is no concussion-proof helmet. There's no way to make the game safer, but there is ways to prevent the wear and tear that the brain takes. And I kind of agree with what Sean Pamphilon was saying, where he's trying to prevent tackle football from being played under the age of 14, but I don't think 14 is a good age. I think 12 maybe better age, but definitely something needs to be done in terms of coaching the children, because that's where you learn the fundamentals.
I consider my parents lucky that I didn't end up becoming a big football fan until later in my teenage years, that I wasn't a big hockey fan until I was probably 16 years old, and then I played baseball for most of my childhood because, as Sean's kid did at the end of the film, he chose baseball not just because of his sweet swing, but because it's a much safer sport to play in terms of concussion protocol. And yeah, there's still the odd chance you can get hit with a hard fastball and get beamed, and that'll hurt you, but just in the day-to-day plays, there is a lot less risk of things of that nature happening. And to see the images of kids running full speed into each other, helmet to helmet, crown to crown in that film was just really harrowing and really disturbing. To bring it back onto a lighter side, though, one thing that I thought was remarkable about Pamphilon is that this is just one part of a whole research project, a whole 11-year plan. And this was the first 3 years, and this film came out in 2012, so he's now 5 years into it, and there's a little bit of time left in his research plan. And so I'm wondering, what do you guys hope to see come out of Pamphilon's research overall? I know that there's certainly a lot about concussion protocols and the research that he's done for that, but maybe what do you hope to see that hasn't been maybe brought to the limelight at this point?
Honestly, I mean, I do think that youth football players should if they want to play football, they should be able to play football. And the whole thing is, the whole teeter-totter thing with them not being able to start until they're 14 is once they do get to start tackling, how are they going to know how to form tackle? How are they going to know how to tackle? And that's another huge safety concern. I know it would be a good idea to push back that age to 14, but once they get to 14, how are they going to make a form tackle if they've never tackled in their life? And that's the thing. You have to, if they want to really play football and you're an incredibly good football player, then you need to know how to tackle. And when you go in and you're 14, I know your body hasn't fully developed yet, and the physical harm can be really damaging. But at the same time, if you want to play at a higher level, you're going to need to know how to tackle safely. And that's the whole teeter-totter thing. But what would I like to see changed? Obviously, more of an onus on trying to keep your head up and not lead with your head. And also, I think the age should definitely be pushed back to 14, if not 15, 16. But then again, there is that whole thing with learning how to play the game safely. And if you're playing flag football your entire career, it's not going to set you up for a good tackle football life.
Look at rugby. It's a more wear and tear sport than football, I believe, because there's zero padding, no helmets, really, unless you elect to wear a flimsy piece of plastic that sort of cushions the blow. But those players, concussions aren't nearly as common as they are in the NFL, because in the NFL, you feel like with a helmet, you can go and be reckless with your head and lead with your head. But in rugby, you're needing to lead with your body. It's a lot more of a physical tackle than it is a tackle with your head and a helmet. So in that regard, there needs to be some sort of knowledge like there is in rugby on the dangers of using your head to tackle. And I mean, obviously, you can't say that tackling without a helmet or having practices where you tackle with no helmet is going to solve the problem, because I think that'll do the opposite. But there needs to be some sort of education from a young age and really extending into the pros about the problems with concussions. Like, I remember Sean saying that there was a doctor on the sidelines in Pittsburgh that didn't really tell a player about the concussion protocol and the dangers of concussions. That needs to be brought into the that needs to be brought to the players' attention. They need to know that there are problems with concussions. There is that danger when you're going for a tackle, and you need to be cautious about it. Now, is that going to solve everything? Probably not, but it certainly will help players learn that there's a danger that they're facing in leading with their helmet or being reckless out in the football field that can harm them in the long run, and they need to know that.
I'd like to see the evolution in technology since the United States of Football came out. 5 years does make a huge difference, and I think that if you go back to 2012, technology was very different. And Jordan, you're right that no helmet is going to prevent a concussion, but I think that in the last 5 years, there have definitely been some strides to either minimize it or at least make people more aware of it, having the third-party spotters on the sidelines. I would like to see the evolution in technology and maybe what's happened since then. And I know that nothing's going to be perfect, but I think that that's something that should be looked at. As for next week's episode of To Be Frank, a little birdie told us that we have a surprise coming, so we're not exactly sure who the guests are going to be as of now. You will find out what the surprise is when we return next week, but for this episode of To Be Frank alongside Jordan Tebow and Dan Shulman, I'm Jake Reiser signing off.
I like what you got. Good job.